Keeping tabs on the Ottawa condo market in 2026 has been a little like watching a train wreck in slow motion, and unfortunately, the numbers for May didn't do anything to buck that trend. We're sitting at a total of 186 condo apartment sales in 2026, May of 2026. That's the lowest we've seen for a May in 10 years. And that includes May of 2025, which was already a record low year, and May of 2020, which, as we all remember, was still the early days of COVID when a lot of people were still scared to go outside, scared to even go look at properties. This low sales volume, along with the high days on market, high months of inventory, and falling benchmark price, tell a story that is not pretty. If you're looking to buy a condo right now, this may be good news for you if you have a reasonable amount of risk tolerance and are planning to stay there for a long time. If you're looking to sell into this market, this will tell you exactly the kind of market that you're selling into and what you need to do to stand out. Let's start by taking a look at the numbers. Now, as we can see here, we're going to start as usual with the sales volume. This is all of the Mays over the last 10 years. And we can see the 10-year average. I think this is around 285, if I remember correctly. So we're well below that 10-year average. And as you can see, we had 208 sales last year. We're down at 186 this year, and even a few below 2020, which was really the most surprising one to me. I think that's the first time we've seen a 2026 number for sales volume lower than an early 2020 month, because obviously with COVID going on, a lot of people were afraid to even go out and transact. But even compared to that time when lots of people were staying inside to flatten the curve, we're still below that number. And this shows the same data, but just kind of clustering it by the last 3 years by month. And we can see for May, we went down pretty significantly from 2024 to 2025, and then down again from 2025 to 2026. And that's a trend that we've been seeing throughout the year, basically, actually every single month so far. The number of sales for apartment condos has been lower than it was both previous years. Looking now at the number of active listings, this is the number of listings sitting on the market at the end of a given month. We can see that we are up from 2024 and 2025, not up at those 2018, 2017 levels. Anecdotally, I think part of the reason for this is a lot of condo sellers, investors specifically, are just pretty discouraged. The condo market has been bad for long enough now that I think a lot of sellers have just opted out and decided not to list their apartment condos. The ones who are up there are sitting fairly long, and we can see that reflected in the number of listings on the market. So even on top of this kind of higher number, I think there's even some pent up sellers who are not listing because they just know they're not going to be able to get the price that they want or they feel like they need in order to not lose a bunch of money. Months of inventory, as you'll know if you watch the channel regularly, is probably my favorite stat. I think it's the best leading indicator of where prices are going. And year over year, we're up a little bit. So we were at 4.3 months of inventory last year. We're up to 5 this May of 2026. Months of inventory, very quickly again, is if we take that last active listings on the market at the end of the month and divide it by that previous sales number we were looking at, that gives us months of inventory. It's a measure of absorption and gives us a good idea of how supply and demand are interacting. So a higher months of inventory, 5 months, means we're technically in a balanced market. Anything under 6 months is still not considered a buyer's market, but it feels very much like a buyer's market out there. I can tell you from firsthand experience. Looking at the days on market as well, another great indicator of what the demand looks like. We can see that we're up pretty significantly, about 25% actually year over year, even up month over month as well. 4% longer than it took to sell a property in April. We're up from 36 days up to 45, so basically up to like a month and a half to sell the average condo on the Ottawa MLS, which is a long time. And as we'll see in the next slide here, even after that long wait, you're going to be selling it at a pretty reduced price. So we can see we're up. It's nice to see at least one green number, up 1.5% on the benchmark price month over month. And again, this is the benchmark price, not the average. So this does control for the outliers. I think it's the most reliable price number that you can get from the home price index. And we're down almost 7% year over year. which makes sense. This is kind of the story we've been seeing for most of the year. We can see we were kind of trending down into January. We went up a little bit heading into that early spring market, but we've kind of just been flat at that lower number since kind of the winter of last year. So it's tough. If you want to be one of those properties who sells, you have to make sure you're pricing down here. I think the reason a lot of the properties are sitting for so long and the reason we're seeing such a high number of active listings is because a lot of people are stuck, even just here, even just a year ago when the prices were not great, already down significantly from the peaks in 2021 and 2022. People don't want to compromise on that number. But if you want to sell, if you want to be one of those people that sells after a month or 45 days or a few weeks if you're lucky, you got to price at today's market. And today's market is not a good price, especially if you bought in the early part of the 2020s. A lot of investors right now who bought those pre-construction places or the places, during the boom of kind of the COVID years, really in a rough financial position now, and that's what's driving all of this inventory coming to market, and it's tough. So you got to make sure you got a floor plan that makes sense. You got to make sure you're marketed properly. If you're buying it, it is a good time to negotiate yourself a good deal. Just understand that the numbers do say, at least in my opinion, there's a decent chance, there's a decent downside risk that those prices are going to continue to fall a little bit before they do get better. But if you buy a good building with a good floor plan, good fundamentals, and you're planning to stay there, it's the most important part, you're planning to stay there for a longer period of time, then I think it can make sense to buy a condo now. Just be careful that you're buying a place that makes sense. That's it for this month. Sorry there was no good news. If ever you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. Thanks so much for taking the time to watch. Have a wonderful rest of your week and take care.